In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. Today, we're just going to go ask the pawn shop owner who did it, clearing the name of this week's guest. And that guest is Corsica Wilson. So, Corsica, is Sherlock Jr. a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
Ooh, should be, I guess, is the answer. Definitely has not been attempted. I don't think people have attempted stories of Buster, but never of his actual creations. But they deserve to be seen again.
I don't think any Buster Keaton movie has ever been remade, has it? As far as I know.
No. But that's because, they were so perfectly engineered and he was the only one willing to actually risk his life doing the stunts that he did. So it kind of comes then, if you're going to actually remake it, should you follow the rules that he did of the practical stunts and tricks and illusions that he did, and stay true to that.
Because I don't even think these are like movies in the traditional sense of movies as like a story told on screen. Because I think this is more an exhibition of incredible stunts. Like, I would describe this more as like a sideshow or a circus than like a traditional narrative story.
Definitely. It not only stunts, but I think film technique at the time. A lot of the sequences were just very impressive for film during that era.
Absolutely. We'll get into that in a second, but before we get too far, Corsica, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself so they know who they're listening to?
I am an actress and producer in Los Angeles, and I'm very obsessed with silent film, in particular Buster Keaton. I've lived in LA for 10 years, grew up in a military family, so I've traveled around a lot. And I've always loved cartoons, and I think silent film was an easy transition off of being a kid in love with animation and physical humor and expression.
I think that's wonderful. This is also I've now been in LA for 10 years, so yay us.
Woo, yay, decade.
Don't think of it in terms of fractions, which I did, and it was bad.
Ooh.
Because next year I will have been in LA for 11 years, which means it will have been a third of my life.
Gosh, yeah. Yeah, this is the longest I've lived anywhere, which feels weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, plus military, so that makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so now it's like seeing change and people for longer than a few years. That's new to me.
Oh yeah, I remember when this block was this thing, but now it is this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about why you chose Sherlock Jr. over some of Buster Keaton's other movies. Because I think when you first said Sherlock Jr., my first thought was Steamboat Bill Jr. Is that the right name?
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, this movie isn't really narrative focused. It is does seem more exhibitionist kind of, but it's still one of my favorites just because I feel like, at least for discussion and introduction to Buster Keaton, that's usually where I send people, just because it has so many unique traits of just what makes Buster him. And I think it's the most fun just in terms of his character and the some of the sequences that he does. So I think to me personally, it's just my favorite storyline that he's done. My second favorite would have been Battling Butler, I think, which is Buster's favorite also. But in terms of a remake, this just seemed more fun with the flop of his dream sequence and everyone kind of becoming villains, and just the duality of that seemed more fun to play with in this circumstance. Yeah. And it always is just the movie I go back to when I just want to watch Buster. I always go to Sherlock Jr. I don't know why.
So I hadn't really ever heard of this. The only Buster Keaton movie I'd seen prior to this was Steamboat Bill Jr.
Wow. Yeah.
He loves juniors, which the only reason I saw that was because
he is a junior.
Diane showed it to me.
Oh yeah.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's
Buster Keaton Jr.
Yeah, his dad, Joe Keaton, is the girl's dad in Sherlock Jr.
Oh,
he is in the film.
Really?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that.
Oh yeah.
But so like I kind of went into this blind. I really had no idea what to expect. And I messaged you after I watched the movie because it's not very long. It's
Yeah, it's 40.
45 minutes. And it's delightful. Like there was some sequences where I genuinely laughed out loud, and there's some sequences that I just don't know how he did it.
Yeah. When the behind the
And
scenes just adds so much, like all the trivia behind it just is also kind of why I love it so much. It just tells the story of Buster. It almost feels like his manifesto in a way of just everything he was able to put in about himself, not only his father, but his father worked with Houdini, and a lot of the tricks when he's in the like when he's in the woman garb, he jumps through the window and dressed in the woman garb, and the one when he like goes through the wall, like goes through the like they have the thing open, they're all like actual practical Houdini tricks that he learned from Houdini himself. Houdini named him Buster because he fell down the stairs, and there's just so many things in it that's just
didn't
really
know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so it just adds so much to each little moment.
That's the trick that I don't really know how he did it. Like when he dives through the guy's chest through the wall.
I know.
I had no clue.
I know.
And I was like, I kind of get it, but I don't it doesn't I have no idea.
Yeah, and I love that, you know, at the time, like for silent film, you know, it has to be practical in some way. Like can't just throw it to the assumption of special effects or anything. You know, you have to be wowed by the fact that they actually figured out a way to trick you.
Although I would say that this movie also has special effects, because there's the beginning of the dream sequence where he walks up and into the movie screen, and it's just cutting back and forth between all these sequences. He's sitting on something and then he's falling off a hill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so perfectly choreographed.
And so advanced for the time, that whole sequence. But it's practical in the sense of filmmaking.
For now.
Yeah. But I feel like, that would be difficult for filmmakers now, because it's like now you can use a green screen and all these like digital effects, you can just plant it in. But they had to block out the screen and film what they needed and do just precise measurements, you know, and actually do it in a practical effects film kind of way, you know, which I think is actually requires more talent, you know, more amazing. Impressive. Yeah.
The other thing I will say for anyone listening now, if you haven't seen this movie yet, I would say pause the episode and like the whole movie is available for free on YouTube. That's how I watched it. You can go watch it right now. Do yourself a favor. It's amazing. And that way you'll have a much better sense of what we're talking about.
I always tell people also to play it with modern music, because that's actually, it makes it more relatable if you play it to music that you like or that you think it would be good with, you know. I kind of feel like you attribute,
that's a cool idea.
You attribute emotions anyway, you know, and I play around with different types of music that I like with it, rather than trying to adjust to the music of the time. It kind of makes it hard to stay focused, I think, sometimes. So also when I'm introducing people to him in silent film, I tend to be like, well, you know, like make yourself comfortable and like listen to music that pulls you in emotionally already. I think is,
since we're recommending people go watch this movie now, do you have a music selection that you recommend?
Oh gosh.
Or whatever you listened to the last time you watched it?
Yeah. Oh, what's the I remember when I first discovered Buster Keaton, it was a weird montage of him on YouTube, and it was to the Pixies, Down to the Well. And that actually fit him really perfectly. Just kind of like depressing British rock. Or like, I don't know, but there is actually like so much that fits. It's surprising. I played like Gorillas to him the other day, and that actually works really, really well.
Good. I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's like full spectrum, like just try something, you know, because also the emotions in the film change, you know, so it's like, and then even super old school, like 50s, not doo-wop, but what are they? The Ink Spots. I don't know. That's I'm getting too nerdy here, but
no, I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun to play around with it. But definitely it helps to connect with it emotionally. So you can kind of then notice the nuance of his reactions and physical humor more, because you can feel a little more engaged. I think music's good for that.
I think that's a really good idea. It's honestly another thing I've never considered for, especially for these old silent movies.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, so for this movie, so you talked a little bit about how this is the Buster Keaton movie that you come back to the most.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? What was really this YouTube? I assume, like montage, your introduction to Buster Keaton.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that earlier. That's where I remember, I don't know how I came upon that montage, but I remember just being obsessed with it because it's still on YouTube. It's like so old and it's super tiny now. So like it's hard to even really see a lot of it. But I think just paired to that song, it was just cut really well. And I just really connected with Buster and his deadpan, his stone face with all of his stunts and everything. And I think from there, it sparked my curiosity to watch his films and then, learn about him and just how he was a true engineer, even in the general of the train collapsing on the bridge, just all of the stunts and like huge, sequences that he engineered. And Steamboat Bill Jr., the house, the classic, that's you still see in things today. Like if he was an inch off, he would have died,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like just his bravery and for the sake of this art is just, it's always been inspiring. But
were you already a fan of silent movies prior to finding this? I keep forgetting the word, conglomeration thing. Were you already a fan of silent? Thank you.
Okay.
Were you already a fan of silent movies in general before finding this montage, or was kind of this montage just random thing?
Yeah, I don't remember. I know it was in college. I don't remember how I stumbled across it, but I didn't really. That was my gateway to silent film because I got comfortable with watching silent film through Buster, and so then I was able to watch more dramatic pieces and just the span of the whole era and kind of be able to understand the language of it and appreciate it more. But like I said before that, I just watched so many cartoons, so much animation. I loved Betty Boop and Tom and Jerry, which is very obviously very physical, no dialogue, and so I've always appreciated that sort of language. And so I think it was an easy transition to an appreciation of silent film and silent comedy, especially.
So then, as a filmmaker yourself, I think I phrased that poorly. As a filmmaker yourself, what have you taken from silent movies and kind of incorporated into your own filmmaking?
Yeah,
if anything.
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like it definitely has taught me a lot as far as film being a visual medium, because I think when I initially started even writing a bit and thinking of filmmaking, it was so plot heavy and dialogue heavy, and just learning, how powerful just the visual is and the physical communication, the body language and reactions. And I also, for some reason, I'm just very obsessed with wide shots, which is just like something I just want to keep playing with in filmmaking. And silent film, just the composition of some of their shots and wide shots are really stunning. And they just use those for humor, and the layering of them, I think, is really interesting. So a lot of like composition and framing, which actually silent film took from previous war photography and like older photography. So that's actually been more inspiring for just like filmmaking in the sense of the composition and the visual. So yeah, I try to think more in terms of how to communicate something without dialogue first, and make sure dialogue is kind of supplemental and not, just there what's the word, as excessive or indulgent, or, just the silent film is just such basic universal language, and to try and keep that in mind, I think, is as a foundation for the medium of film is good. If any of that made sense.
So I think that makes a lot of sense
I'm
because it
still
also
figuring it
started
out,
making me think.
obviously.
Yeah, obviously, because it also made me think about like kind of the way I write, and
Mm.
I am a writer who relies very very much on words. Like I'm a
Hmm.
very dialogue heavy writer. Like
Hmm.
I won't spend as much time in description because I want to get back to like the back and forth of witty
Yeah,
language.
which is very much its own, thing.
But every once in a while, if I ever want to like step out of that style, it's just like taking some time to like really live in and dwell in like the descriptions of landscapes and what's happening. And I don't know, it's something that I should probably learn to take more time for just if I want to be a more well-rounded writer. And I like the idea.
Yeah, yeah. Both, I think, have their importance, in modern filmmaking
Yeah,
anyway.
absolutely. So then with that in mind, if we're sitting down to remake Sherlock Jr., are we making it a silent movie again?
I don't think so. I think a remake, I don't know. That was like the tough question of choosing Buster to begin with, because while I
Mm-hmm.
while I would love to see it remade, the question of remaking a silent movie is tough because, just of a modern audience and modern filmmaking, silent film is kind of its own art that hasn't really stuck around. And so I think, I don't know, I kind of like the idea of remaking it for suiting modern film, more of a modern audience. So I think you could still keep the tone and the spirit of it and kind of adapt it
Mm-hmm.
more. But of course, keeping it, yeah, very physical, keeping the physical
Yeah.
humor and the silent film aspects. But I don't know that it should necessarily be fully silent.
Yeah, one of the things that I did was because a movie like this is so reliant on the physicality
Mm-hmm.
is with the exception of just my writer, every single person that I pulled in for like my casting and everything is a stunt person.
Mm.
Not even someone who's like an actor who does stunts. I This is a stunt
Oh,
person
wow. Yeah.
because I think especially for something like this, you want to be in for the moment. You don't want to cut away to someone else punching and then cut back to your star. Like you want to be fully in and you want to be able to commit to the sequences.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming we'll kind of do a mix and match of both,
Yeah.
but
No, I don't know too many stunt people, so I'm going to want to go with
neither
all
do
of
I.
yours.
This was the problem.
Yeah.
This took me a while. Just like the only reason I found as many people as I did is because I watched the YouTube series VFX Artists React, and then they did an offshoot called Stunt People
Oh,
React,
cool.
and so I pulled in people through that,
Oh, yeah.
and then I pulled people from American Ninja Warrior. But the important thing is,
Amazing.
but before we get to that, let's talk about how we want the movie to go. Like, what do we want to take from the original, and what do we think? Like, right now, it's a 44-minute long movie. Let's say we make it an hour and a half long. We have so much more time. What else needs to happen?
Mm. Yeah, I think it could be just extended in the sense of the scheming, maybe of, it's a simple setup that Buster goes through, but maybe it could be something a little more complex, maybe something that takes a little more time to uncover, at least, in his dream
Mhm.
or not.
I I don't even think necessarily we need to split it into a dream sequence a and reality. Like I think that we can kind of like meld those into one character because he was already someone who was dreaming of being a detective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like aside from like the kind of the crazy antics of the bad guy and the butler, like with the exploding pool ball and the trick axe, which they can also still do in like some crazy Rube Goldberg machine style thing, which I'd love to have. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that this movie would really benefit from was a crazy Rube Goldberg machine that really happens.
Yeah.
I I think he can just take the time and investigate because he was going to start investigating and then immediately gave up, went back to the theater and fell asleep. And then the character who I believe the name is the girl.
I know. Yeah, Buster wasn't.
Oh, I'm just gonna go ask the pawn shop who they gave this receipt
Yeah,
to,
I like that
and then
she just figures it out for him.
yeah,
But that's what I mean. I don't know, like it kind of is funny because Buster, he just dream, like he doesn't really try. Like he has this ideal of himself that he dreams that he can't achieve, but it's also because he kind of, fails. Like he doesn't really like try to try to do the job. Or I guess he follows him at one point, right after he comes out of the house. He
Yeah.
follows the sheik
Until he gets to the train yard. This
Yeah,
movie has a lot of trains in it.
Buster loves trains.
Yeah, and like there's a sequence where he's like leaning on the train, and then another car comes up and connects,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
I
you are
know.
between two
I
train cars.
know.
My God,
Yeah.
I was so nervous for him.
Yeah. But I mean, I do like the idea of, him aspiring, like starting out as this amateur wanting to be, this like brave kind of
Mhm.
smart detective and, having to do so to clear his own name in real life. I kind of like the idea of it, not
Yeah,
necessarily being entirely in his head.
like Mr. Bean meets the Pink Panther kind of thing.
Yeah, I also thought of The Spy Who Dumped Me, which I thought was like
Oh
pretty
yeah,
funny too.
I loved that movie. That
Yeah.
movie was great.
Oh yeah, I definitely see it. I mean, of course, it's just like action comedy, along those
Yeah,
lines for sure. Or even
and I think at
Bored
the
to
end of the
Death.
day, that's what we want.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like because we want action, like because these sequences, you do something really impressive, and there needs to be some sort of payoff at the end, so the audience like knows that the thing was successful. It's
Hmm.
like when we watched The Thief and the Cobbler a few weeks ago. It's
Hmm.
these big, crazy, long animation sequences, but there's no payoff at the end, and it's hard to know like is that what we were supposed to see versus what we weren't supposed to see.
Right.
So I love I love using comedy because if you do this whole big crazy sequence and it ends on a joke,
Hmm.
then it's even more impressive. And even when he's in the train yard and like running along the top of the trains, and the train gets slower and lower and lower until finally he's holding on the rope and he pulls the water
Yeah.
pipe
He
down and
broke
gets
his neck
drenched in water.
doing that.
He broke
He
his
broke
neck
his
doing
neck
because
and he didn't find out for like decades later. He like the doctor was like, "Your neck was broken." And he was like, "Huh. I think maybe that
maybe
happened
it's from
then."
the hundreds of gallons
I
of water
know.
pouring down over my
I
head as I
know.
dropped to the
It looks
ground.
so easy and like great, yeah, but then it's like just
I was legit wondering how he did it, but the fact that he broke his neck actually makes total
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
He had hundreds of gallons of water pour on him. He dropped off a rope onto train
Yeah.
tracks and then had to run away from these like two random dudes who like were like, "Hey,
Yeah.
oh, that makes total sense."
Yeah. And was that was him in real life. His that wasn't even fake Sherlock. That wasn't Dream Buster. That was like real
No,
Buster. Yeah.
that's where his
So it is kind of like
uh,
Get Smart. Like he's
chase him down.
yeah, he's just like
Yeah,
the accidental hero in a way. I just really do love the contrast of Buster when how he is, and then kind of like how Charlie Chaplin has like his one like drunk rich guy character. Like
yeah,
Buster's like super cocky, wealthy, like smug is like one of my favorites. Like I love when he comes in there and he's just so smart and he's just knows it's like one step ahead of all of them. Whereas the normal Buster kind of just does it all like accidentally, like goofily, And so I do
that's
love
true.
the contrast of the two, which I don't think you could really hold on to if you made it all in reality. I think it would have to just be Buster being Buster and figuring it out, which I'm not like, that type of character I'm not unhappy with. Unless he like
I
maybe
think you could maybe
yeah,
give it a try.
yeah,
Like if he, like he's normal Buster at the start of the movie, and then this thing happens, the pocket watch or whatever gets stolen, and then he gets kicked out. You can't be here anymore. And then there's some news article. Sherlock Jr. is coming to town, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Sherlock Jr., Sherlock Jr." And then
something
Buster somehow runs into him, and you do like kind of the switch
almost like
briefcases.
Battling Butler, because in Battling Butler he gets mistaken for this famous boxer and he has to actually end
Yeah,
up in the boxing match. Yeah, if he like somehow has to be
yeah.
Sherlock Jr., he has to pose, and so he has
Mhm.
to act all like yeah, that's the ticket, I think. Yeah.
So he gets a briefcase full of disguises.
Yeah.
And it can even be a friend, like the friend of his from the movie theater, who I think was his boss at the movie theater, then becomes his assistant when
Mm-hmm.
he's in the movie,
Yeah.
who's like kind of going around like, here, try this one, here, try this one.
Yeah. 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 He's great.
Yeah.
He's such a good character when he's like
That,
hiding in the car or whatever and he pops up.
yeah,
Just always
it's
there.
over the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a great sidekick. And
Yeah.
it's only now in this moment that I realized, oh, the actor who played that, I think, was also his boss at the movie theater.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of now realizing that.
Yeah. Actually, me too.
Now I'm sad I didn't recast him.
Oh yeah. I have so many options for that guy. It's such like a great like opportunity for, like I think I had
Well,
Bill Murray as like my top pick or the like just
well, if I don't have the role, you're basically going to get to name whoever you want to be for. But let's say we do that. Let's say we do the surprising, oh no, we switched briefcases.
I like
and
that.
he gets to go in and do this. What's going to be the larger story? Do we want it to just be a simple pocket watch that was stolen? What would be more important for a modern day audience that was stolen? What is our Maltese Falcon?
Yeah, man. I think it would have to be like more personal, like something that like has more to do with his identity. Like maybe if it's something that's like vital to his respect or position at work or something, like maybe, I don't know, if he was like had to deliver, it gives it more stakes too. Like if he had, I don't know, because I'm also thinking like of the time period versus modern day.
Well,
But if it was like if something he was responsible for, that then would have further stakes.
One of the premises of the movie is that he is in love with the girl,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to call him the local sheik because that's terrible. The bad guy
It was
also
it was making fun of characters at the time in movies too. I think I forget what exactly, but the film has a lot of commentary on other silent films at the time, which I don't know. I forget like super details about, but the Sheik was definitely one of them. That was like a character at the time, and yeah, there's so much like funny commentary that he was making in a lot of those things.
But with that in mind, like let's say it's these two dudes who are interested in the same lady, but one of them like is more capable than the other, but especially if the Buster Keaton character is poor and they end up thinking, well, you were just doing this so that you could like get closer to the family and rob. Like they think he's a gold digger,
Yeah, right,
essentially,
right.
as opposed to someone
Yeah, like a class difference in love.
And if so, I feel like it's something that like we got to steal something that has a value to the family, but also has like monetary value.
Like an heirloom of sorts.
Yeah. Of course, now I'm thinking about another movie that we watched in movie club, which is the one with the candelabra.
Did I watch that one? I don't. Which movie was that?
Yeah, it was the one directed by Maya Angelou.
Oh, I don't think I watched that one.
Oh, fair enough. It was good. But it was like a family heirloom, and there was a big story, like because literally in the story, it's the family. It's a black family, and they sold the forebear of the family and used the money to purchase this candelabra, so that when the Civil War happened and the slaves were freed, like the son or grandson of the man who was sold went and stole this thing because it is literally a personification representation of his grandfather.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why the candelabra was named David or something, because that had been the man's name. And he was sold up the river. And so it's like this thing that is of such paramount value to the family because it is literally the forebear of their family. That is the reason it is even there.
Yeah, definitely something like that would hold more weight.
So not to steal from another movie that we talked about, but something like
that. Yeah, and I think that would definitely tie into, I guess the idea of trying to gain the love of a lady, or like, and if you're hurting their family, then that's just higher stakes rather than just a pocket watch.
And also how much more important it is to rescue that item.
Yeah, right.
So something like that.
Or if it's
and then
I could just keep going on with ideas, but I was going to say if it's something that's even like they were planning to sell or something for her, like if it's like something that was like she was relying on for her future, or like for something for the girl specifically,
it's like they'd gotten something for her that was going to pay for her college.
Yeah,
Like, let's say
right.
someone stole her entire collection of Beanie Babies,
Yeah.
but real and actually valuable.
Right.
Like, we've spent our life building up this thing, and now all of a sudden it was going to pay off. But then at the last
I
second,
kind of
it
like that
turns
it's
out
just
Beanie
the
Babies.
Beanie Babies. Yeah. She just had the most rare, like what is it, the Queen
She has
Elizabeth Beanie Baby or something, or the Diana, it's the Princess
Princess
Di.
Diana Beanie Baby, or the royal blue Peanut the elephant.
Unexcusable, yeah, unforgivable.
Uh, how dare you steal this thing? Like, honestly, it would be really funny if the thing that was stolen wasn't a piece of jewelry or silver or whatever. If it was just this incredibly, like, a Superman #1 or
An
something.
incredibly rare, like weird collectible that
Yeah.
the father's like
Oh, that'd
obsessed
be
with.
so weird.
Yeah.
But it's also super fragile. So, let's say
Mm,
it is a Beanie Baby or it's a comic book or something that's super duper fragile. So not only do you have the the fact that you have to rescue it, you also get to put it in situations where, like, let's say it's a Fabergé egg or something like
yeah.
that, where it is so easy for it to fall and break.
Oh gosh, yeah. It just reminds me of that
And so
Seinfeld
throughout
episode.
the movie, yeah, and it's like you just have to spend the whole movie not only doing these incredible stunts, but also catching the thing at the last second as it falls from a building, and like you run down the steps or whatever and catch the thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that adds a lot.
So something personal to the family, something valuable for the girl's future,
Fragile.
but something breakable.
Yeah, yeah. I'm into it, especially
All
with
right.
like the explosive 8 ball and stuff. I feel like you could get into like
Yeah.
mix and match and
Mhm.
manipulation, deception.
Oh, little 3 card Monty with whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it. That's funny. I'm a big fan. All right, cool. So that's what gets taken, and then a series of incredible stunt things for an
I think
hour,
it should
and then they
definitely,
find
like,
it.
I think in the reality of the story, the dad's man was, I feel like they hinted like it was just like his lover. I don't think that's real, but they were like, because he has no work to do, so he just hangs around. That's just kind of like how I like to see it. But then in his dream, he was like the bad guy. I think in reality,
Yeah,
he should just be the bad guy. Like, I think in reality, he is scheming. I think it should, obviously, since this has to be a full length, it needs to be a larger scheme than just this small setup.
yeah. I think it can also be multiple levels of the other potential love interest and the butler. Both are interested in the same thing. They both independently try to steal it and get it away,
Mm.
but then the Buster Keaton
Ooh,
character
yeah.
rescues it both times, and then they team up and do this whole other
Or
thing
like,
to both kill
have you
him.
ever seen How to Steal a Million with Audrey Hepburn?
I've not. Tell
Oh,
me.
you should. That was up on my
Okay.
list of possible ones to bring to this podcast. But in that one, Audrey Hepburn's father is a forger. He forges paintings and sculptures, and he sells one to a museum because he gets carried away in his own like ego, and then they want to test it. And so Audrey Hepburn freaks out for her father and tries to steal it so that her father is protected, and doesn't get caught. And so maybe it could be something similar to that, where the girl is actually like in on it in an innocent way, if that makes sense. But yeah,
I think at the end of the day, whatever our projectionist Sherlock Jr. character does, I think needs to ultimately fail.
yeah,
And I
definitely.
do think he needs to be the ultimate hero.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, that
I
is
mean,
like what Sherlock Jr. is, and that is the most important part that should remain.
that is absolutely essence of this
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah. Buster's the idiot.
And then I do love the joke that the movie ended on of like
Mm,
they're watching this movie and he's watching the movie to kind of figure out, oh well,
yeah,
how do I be
that was
romantic? How
making
do I
fun of
have
censorship at the time.
Oh really?
Yeah, because it was like in the 20s when like censorship was huge, and like you couldn't show, it was just like everything was hugely censored, and so Buster was making fun of that. But it is, yeah, it's funny. It's like looking to the films, and then it's like cut in between like kissing and then having babies. It was like
And it just his expression is perfect.
yeah, oh yeah.
But also, I like that, like, she comes in and is like, well, my father and I were wrong, and now I'm shy about it and don't want to look at you. And I'm like, lady, you are the hero in this situation. He should be thanking you.
I know. She should be demanding
Yeah.
the thanks. Yeah. She did it all. I do love the scene when he's courting her though, and they're both like shy and the like touching hands. Oh, I
Yeah,
think that's like my favorite scene of the whole thing. I mean, besides like stunts,
sure.
that is just
That's
his
the best scene,
reactions.
but there are
Yeah.
also really good sequences.
Yeah, and when she's like looking at the ring with the and he like rolls his eyes, it's so good. All of his like expressions in that scene are so nuanced and beautiful.
It is like peak silent movie, what
Yeah,
was going on.
yeah.
I mean, I also like that he was like really struggling, trying to pull dollars together just to get this box of, I presume, chocolates. And then he's like, all right, I got you this $1, $4 box of chocolates. Oh, and also I have this ring.
That's true. Yeah, the ring wasn't enough. He had to save up for the chocolates too.
Yeah, like he had the ring. The
Yeah.
chocolates you had to go digging through the trash for people who randomly lose
Well, see,
dollars.
you had to give the chocolates first to be allowed to give the ring. You know, the
Fair.
chocolates are like the first step.
Can we talk about a branding of chocolates? Because like the $1 box of chocolates he gets is like the size of, I don't know, like a checkbook,
Hmm.
and then the $3 box of chocolates is the size of a World Book Encyclopedia
Yeah,
with a picture of some other woman on the front
I
because
know.
that's a brand name for chocolate.
Yeah, yeah, that was weird. Yeah, the woman on the front of chocolates didn't really make sense to me.
These are for women.
Yeah. Oh, picture of woman. I give to woman.
Yes, is good. Understood.
Woman like I give ring.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, but you know.
Yeah, that's goofy. I like it.
Yeah. It's kind of like cheap chocolate versus nice chocolate in that sense of like,
Yeah.
but then it would be like the same size. That'd be funny if it was like, you pay like you have $3 and you either get like a lot of crap chocolate or like a
Mhm.
little of good chocolate and then like
Well, that's what would happen now, right? That's the joke where you could pay $3 and get a huge box of just like Hershey's chocolate,
right.
or if you pay $50, you get a single
I know.
truffle chocolate.
Yeah.
And can I have the big one?
I know.
There's
Definitely
more.
quantity. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it
When it
comes
comes
to
to chocolate,
chocolate.
I mean, look, I love a really good dark chocolate, but by all means, go for as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
You've already committed to this. Let's make it happen.
Or just somewhere in between, like a nice Toblerone.
Yes. Separate thought. Favorite chocolate bar?
Ooh, I'm weird. I don't really like chocolate by itself. I like it with other things. So like I like York peppermint patties and I like
Ooh, good choice.
Butterfinger and I like Toblerone.
Good choices.
Yeah. I'd say York peppermint patties are quite tasty,
I like it.
frozen especially.
Yeah, I mean anything that's chocolate deserves to be in the freezer first.
Oh,
These are
yeah.
these are the rules.
Yeah.
Mine, like, this doesn't come up that often, but every time I have like the favorite chocolate bar conversation with someone, it's mine's a Canadian candy bar. It's Aero bars, AERO, and there's a version of them that's
Oh
mint, so it's
yeah.
a mint Aero bar.
Aren't those with the like
Best chocolate bar.
little like crispy rice things in it? What's
No, those are coffee crisps.
Oh, okay.
Coffee crisps are my dad's favorite chocolate bar.
I remember when I lived
Uh,
in London, I loved Flake. Do
ooh,
they have that in
I know.
Canada?
I didn't
I
know
don't
that.
know.
I don't
Yeah,
know,
that was
but
good.
I'd be willing to try it. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's like a Three Musketeer in that it's like aerated chocolate in the middle, but instead of Three Musketeer where
Oh,
it's but like something like that, and it's just like it just melts in your mouth. Perfect.
I want chocolate now.
Yeah, I've made a terrible mistake.
The rest of the
Um,
podcast is just chocolate talk.
yeah, I mean we're also post Halloween at this point. I should also
Yeah,
mention we're recording this on November 7th. Biden just won the
I
presidency.
know.
Yeah, woo, we
Woo!
deserve to celebrate.
Yeah, I need chocolate.
Yeah, by all means, today's a
And
day.
Kamala,
Everything goes today.
first woman VP, first So it's wonderful. It's all just wonderful. And rain today, just
Yeah,
it's a good day.
pretty much all aspects of today are wonderful.
Oh yeah, really they are. And talking about Buster, gosh.
Yeah. The I lost my train of thought. Oh no.
Chocolate.
Yeah, but I got to chocolate from something else. Oh, so it's neither of us are stunt people. We really, I can't necessarily conceive of, oh, it'd be really cool if they did a flip off a building. Like, I don't really have the training or the mindset to be able to come up with like really cool and interesting stunts. I feel like that's their job once we hire the people.
Definitely.
But one of the things that I really, please.
I was gonna say, I mean, that the only thing I would want like all of Buster's stunts from Sherlock in the remake. Like they have to be. Like there can be more, but you gotta, yeah, right. You gotta keep an homage to each of them for sure.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Except for the part where someone needs to break their neck.
Yeah, well, that was a result. That was not, definitely don't want people getting hurt.
But what I was gonna say is, I found it really fun seeing how one of the tricks was done. Is that it's one of these really, really old school styles of filmmaking that is seeing a resurgence right now. So there's the moment when he's on the front of the motorcycle and the dude falls off and he's kind of just like riding away.
Fun fact is Buster. The actor didn't want to fall off the back of the bike, so Buster pretended to be him and fell off the bike. So that's Buster falling.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Oh,
I have so much trivia.
I love it. Throw in as much as possible whenever you want. But what I was going to say is there's a moment where he's on the front and he's going down a lane and he just misses a train is coming right at the screen and he just misses it. And then he just misses a truck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the way that's done.
Yeah, where they projected it against the screen and then filmed him in front of that screen.
Oh, really?
Is that not how it was done?
No, I'm pretty sure. I thought I read that they filmed it backwards. The train's going backwards. So like if you watch the sequence, it's played in reverse.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be cool too. I thought that it was a projection screen just because I know that was very popular right now. And
yeah.
And I know that that's something that they're doing now in The Mandalorian because that's kind of how they're doing their big, incredible landscapes. And I first became aware of it earlier this year when I went to Sundance and saw a movie. But I saw 9 Days, and it's a plot point in the movie. I highly recommend it. If anyone has a way of seeing it, you got to watch it.
I know I've searched it. I can't find a way to watch it, but I want to.
Someday I will own it and I will make everyone watch it. That is a movie that involves all the emotions. You will cry and it'll be wonderful.
Great.
But like, it's an aspect of that movie where like they bring the screens around and they create the scene around it. And I agree with you that they need to do all the kind of like the tricks and the homages to the original Buster Keaton, but I'd also love them to kind of do an homage to old school filmography.
Yeah.
And filming something backwards, putting in like a screen and doing like other tricks like that.
They're playing with miniatures. That was such a big thing at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'd love to see just someone who really has a love for kind of like those practical aspects of filmography and just trying them again.
Yeah.
And figuring out a way to make them work for a modern audience.
Yeah. That's what I kind of like. Like I like not necessarily the silent aspect of silent film, but every other aspect of filmmaking that they were doing, I would want in the remake,
It's the necessity is the mother of invention. Like they didn't have another option, so they had to figure out how to do a thing. And it's always so cool. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Especially like they played, with blocking, and it's filmed too. So they would be filming on the same reel and they would like have, and Griffith, I think, invented the like fade out kind of thing and the fade in, but they would get that at the end of each shot, in the beginning of each shot. So it wasn't only just the shot that you had to worry about getting. It was like those camera moves at the beginning and end, and you build and build and build on the reel that you're making, and it's just like the pressure of that. Whereas digital, it's so easy to take a million takes or, adjust it for mistakes, but then you just couldn't make any mistakes, or you just had to start all over.
The idea of multiple exposure to film gives me so much anxiety because if you're off by a frame, the whole thing's ruined. And that's terrifying to me. So maybe not that, but still.
No, that too.
Oh no. Good luck, friends. Fall the same way.
I mean, I think that's how he did the screen changing, was with multiple exposure, don't you think? Yeah.
Probably.
I don't know how that one works.
I assumed that it was because yes, they were filming this thing, and I assumed that what they did was they had these multiple locations and they had it plotted out exactly what they were going to do, and they filmed each section in a different environment, and then they cut it all together, and then they projected it onto the movie screen. That's how I assumed they did it, but it could have been anything.
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember projection being used that much, but I guess it was.
Well, I meant because they were watching it in a movie theater, and so
Oh yeah.
yeah. So regardless, so like projecting it on a movie screen just so they could film it in a movie theater,
Right.
but like the actual filmography of what we're seeing, that's kind of how I assume they did it. Like they actually filmed it in each of those locations and then chopped it together.
Yeah, but to have him stay in the same place, like that's just like the math of the composition of the shot, so that it's like his background changes, but like he stays static, like to match that.
Yeah. And they were just like my assumption is that they just had to measure it perfectly and exactly every single time.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I appreciate math, but not that much.
I know, insane. Buster was a engineer math whiz. Yeah. Also, fun trivia. He did all of those shots in the pool game. Like those are all real.
That
like
was crazy.
Yeah, anything like that, he just obsessed over until he was good at, and including that, he just kept practicing until he literally did all those shots for real. Yeah.
Short of like gluing down the 13 ball.
Yeah, which is all math,
Yeah, cool. I mean, it's all angles and math, but like I completely forgotten that they did that, and I watched this the other day, and I was just like, oh my god, he was so good at it. It was just like such amazing pool playing. It was like trick pool 50 years before trick pool was a thing.
Yeah,
presumably.
Yeah,
it was stunning. Incredible.
Yeah.
So let's talk about who we would kind of put, because I kind of think we have our idea of the movie. We kind of have our core plot. Stunts happen. We pay tribute to certain things.
Adventure ensues. Yeah.
But let's talk about if we want to fill these roles.
Gosh, so hard. Well, then there's the question of like if you want to keep Buster male, or if you want to like switch it up to have like, just swap gender roles.
I am open to that.
Tricky, but.
I was hoping you might consider doing a gender swap for Sherlock Jr. Yeah. I considered it. I ended up not doing one, but I'm fully on board to hear your suggestion.
I didn't either, just because it was already hard to even think of like anyone. I just stuck to brainstorming kind of more literal kind of replacements for just the way that it's cast.
Because I cast stunt people, one of Sherlock's one of Buster Keaton's big things is he appears very small and diminutive, which is kind of due to like height and stature and whatever. But when you look up stunt people now, all of them, male, female, whatever, every single one of them is jacked.
Oh yeah, Buster was too. He was tiny, but he was hiding under a suit.
Yeah, as I was talking about this with Diana, I was like, I can't figure out who to cast for Buster. And she was like, well, and so my suggestion ended up being someone that she recommended. And I agree, because it's someone who is smaller, but also works as a stunt person and has, this is someone that I know from American Ninja Warrior, but he's done like Star Trek Beyond and a bunch of stunt like things all over the place. This gentleman's name is David Flip Rodriguez.
Okay.
So he's a little bit shorter. Yeah, when he's on American Ninja Warrior, it's Flip Rodriguez.
Cool.
But his actual first name is David. So he's Flip Rodriguez.
I like that he has a nickname already, like Buster.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the idea. Like everyone on the show calls him Flip.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, especially because he's a little bit shorter, but he's apparently like a really nice guy. Perhaps not necessarily as fatalistic as Buster Keaton was, but still just like a good dude and is able to do crazy batshit stunt stuff, and I thought he'd be a fun choice.
Yeah, that definitely, it's tough to think. I was, of going, like when I was brainstorming, I was trying to feel more of like the essence of reaction and physical comedy, which is tough. It's just not around anymore, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I was thinking less about the stunts. Obviously, I would love for whoever was playing the lead role to do their own stunts, but maybe that's something that they could just learn and train for,
Just do the
but
full Keanu Reeves, John Wick treatment.
yeah, or
Train for
Alicia
6 months.
Vikander, Tomb Raider.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah, just do something like that, which would be kind of funny. And so I was just thinking more in terms of comedy and face and expression and like physical, like who was like just gave off that vibe that could play that duality of him, which isn't as important now that we're saying like we're staying in the reality of Buster, the whole time. But I was like the closest that I had in my head, and I'm still like not 100%, but would be someone like Tony Hale.
Yeah.
Just because of like, I don't know, just the quirkiness and goofiness of his demeanor, of just like the anti-hero and like, or not anti-hero, but like accidental kind of strength.
Yeah. Tone and demeanor, you're spot on.
Yeah.
I think Tony Hale's a good choice for that.
Like in Veep, like some of just like his reactions, are just, it's so perfect. And if you add, and then it's just the contrast. If you see him like then do all these crazy stunts on top of that, it would just make it funny,
Yeah, I don't disagree. That's a fun choice. If we're aiming specifically for the comedy of it,
right.
I think Tony Hale's a good choice.
How is Flip like acting wise? Like you said, he's been in things. I'm not sure of him, but like as far as like expression and humor, because that's hard. Like, stunt work is hard, but so is comedy.
That is where my casting is lacking, because the vast majority of these people are stunt people, so they're not comedians, and that's a very, very different skill set.
Mm-hmm. And that's why Buster is one of a kind and amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in kind of silent movie style mugging a camera, I think that that's something that can be taught or faked to an extent. Like, obviously there's people who are better at it than others. Like, even just watching this movie, you can say, this person, there's a reason that their part's a lot smaller than others. And Buster Keaton obviously was a genius at it. So I don't know, because I feel like both the comedy and the stunts are important.
Yeah.
And so either we surround the person with a bunch of people who do stunts, or we surround the person with a bunch of people who do comedy. So let's come back to Sherlock Jr. / The Projectionist. And let's see who else we will kind of want to populate the world with.
Yeah.
But I was going to say we can move on to the girl and then come back to.
Yeah, let's do it.
So why don't you tell me who you had for?
The girl was actually even harder, and in the best way, because, the girl for silent era, whatever, is kind of a strong role, because she kind of just is fine and figures it all out. Like, obviously, maybe a little less shy in the remake. But
her demeanor I would potentially completely change.
Yeah, exactly. But, just strong female, luckily, like that's, a lot of actresses today are playing a lot of like wonderful, strong roles. So, and then I was kind of like I was kind of going back and forth in age too. And cause I was like considering a lot younger actors. Like I also had, Asa Butterfield as like a Buster option, but that's like very young. Or however you say his name, you know what I mean? And that's like a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, the girl's tough. I kind of wanted to go with someone like Jenny Slate, who's kind of just like someone who's grounded but funny and just kind of is like go with the flow, but also can like, step up. And I don't know, because that's what I kind of loved in Sherlock Jr. Like the girl was just kind of like, it's pretty easy, like I just did it, like just kind of very chill about it, like not like making a huge like I'm like I'm gonna solve all the problems, look at me, and I'm
gonna save the day.
Yeah. So I kind of someone like that. I don't know.
I love Jenny Slate. Jenny Slate's again an excellent choice for comedy, and doing like kind of the character-y fun stuff, because she's absolutely wonderful.
But she should do some stunts in a remake. I think the girl should get in on the stunt action too,
Oh yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
100% think that. Which is why the girl
Yeah.
is. And also, maybe she gets a name, but that's too fancy for us.
Yeah, right.
Is a stunt performer named Lauren Mary Kim.
Okay.
She has done stunts for Furious 7, The Orville, Mandalorian. She was in the
Ooh,
Netflix
yeah.
Marvel stuff. She's also done acting things. She also happens to be gorgeous, but like she
Hmm.
also runs like kind of stunt training for other people.
Yeah.
And,
Oh my God, she's so cool. Look at her moves. Dang.
and so that's why I kind of thought she'd be fun,
Yeah.
especially because if you treat her a little like you think she's going to be a little bit more diminutive, and then it's like, oh no, she's the one over here kicking butt and saving the day.
Yeah.
And I
Ho-
thought that'd be
Honestly,
fun.
like I kind of like the idea of like having like a comedic actor who has to learn stunts and so is maybe, I mean, I know Buster should be impressive with his stunts, but it also kind of like makes me laugh to think of like an actor having to like learn stunts and then having this just badass stunt woman like or they're like showing him up at like a teens. You know what I mean?
So for what we end up doing is we should have either Flip Rodriguez and Jenny Slate or Tony Hale and Lori Mary Kim.
Right. No, yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah, Tony Hale
One
and
of those
Lauren Mary.
matching.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. I like it. Huh. I don't know which one we should go with. That's funny.
That is funny.
The only reason I might suggest potentially going with Flip and Jenny Slate is isn't Tony Hale like 45?
Oh, yeah. Lauren Mary Kim is 40.
Is she?
It
No
says she's
way.
she's 39.
That's I did not know that. All right,
So
well then
it
that's
works.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually does work really well.
I'm kind of into it, actually.
Yeah, I don't think I would have pegged that. And then I think Flip Rodriguez and Jenny Slate are also around the same age, but
They're
now
all
I don't know
actually.
what to believe.
Yeah. But I mean, it
Oh,
is
that's
kind of
nuts.
like how they look, too,
Yeah.
like if they look
Um,
younger next to each other.
well, who did you have for her father? Who did you have for the girl's father?
Ted Danson.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everyone loves Ted Danson. He's
That was,
great.
yeah, it was tough because the dad is like just kind of like, well, I guess like it's like he's very like a little impressionable, just kind of like, you know what I mean? He's not gonna like be like, well, you know, you have better character, but the proof is here, so I'm gonna believe it. It's kind of like playing dumb a little, and I think Ted Danson would be funny in that
Like
role.
I have to kick you out forever, but I'm sad about it.
Yeah, yeah,
I think if we go with Jenny Slate, then we have to go with Ted Danson because I think that's perfect.
yeah.
For Lauren Mary Kim,
Hmm.
I had her father being Donnie Yen from Ip Man, from Rogue One, a Star Wars story. As soon as you look him up, you'll recognize him.
Oh yeah,
He,
definitely.
yeah, Chinese cinema and
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
a different kind of stunt and action performer.
Yeah,
But again, I don't know which of our two pairings we should go with. Who do you
right.
have for the hired man slash butler?
Um, the father's man. I had Jeffrey Tambor.
Uh, I
That was
think,
tough. I was going because it's like funny evil and like the guy. I was kind of comparing looks, like similarity to
yeah,
the guy in the actual film. That was a tough
I
one for me.
that is a tough one. I think, kind of in broad strokes, I like who you went with. I don't think we can go with Jeffrey Tambor. This is the first one where I'm just going to kind of say no because he got me
Oh,
too'd a little bit.
oh, he did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and just because he's not that he necessarily did things, but he was like like abusive on
That's
set kind of guy.
that seems familiar now that you're saying that. Yeah,
But luckily, the hired man slash butler, the father's man that I went with
yeah.
is this was my gender swap.
Mm.
I went with a stunt person who is a stunt person for comedies, like a
What?
comedy stunt person named Joette Nicole Orman. She is Rebel Wilson's stunt person. She was also in Kidnap. She helped do 22 Jump Street.
Oh, cool.
So that's why I went for this particular role. A
Yeah.
gender swap,
Rebel Wilson would
and
be funny too in general.
she would. But for this one, I am going to say let's go with Joette Nicole.
Yeah, I'm down.
Then We're not calling him the local chic. Who did you have for your like bad guy alternative beau?
I had Will Arnett. Man, I have a lot of Arrested Development.
Yeah, you really do.
I had Sebastian Stan too. I was kind of like I knew he had to be evil, but then it was like I don't know if he can really do comedy. And the Sheik actually was the guy who plays it in the silent film did a really good job of like being slimy but being like pretty funny, you know.
Yeah,
So I
I
think
thought he
like
did a great job.
yeah, he was good.
Just like walking in step with Buster Keaton. I thought he did an amazing job.
Yeah, yeah,
This is another situation where I'm going to say I'd rather go with the stunt person, which
yeah,
means that I think I'd probably end up going with Tony Hale for the Buster Keaton.
yeah.
So my suggestion for this bad guy person is a stunt performer named I don't know how to pronounce his first name. I want to say Guy De Silva Green. Guy spelled Gui
Mm.
and then Dasilva. He was the stunt double for Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther. He's in Deadpool.
Oh yeah.
He also had a really cool short film called like The Backpack, inspired by like My Hero Academia, where they were doing the sequence where he would throw a backpack and they'd cut it so like wherever the backpack ended up, he appeared wearing the backpack and then he'd punch the bad guy.
Oh cool.
And it was just this really cool YouTube sequence. And I thought he'd be a really fun villain, also because he's also one of those people who's been doing like stunts for a long time, is like good at choreography and coming up with cool ideas.
Definitely. He also
So,
is very attractive and like has that look. Like, you know what I mean? Of just
yeah.
like being competition for like
Yeah.
Tony Hale or something, you know?
Well, part of the reason why I'd originally considered him for the Sherlock character, but
Oh.
he's just so ripped that I can't do it.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of in his face. Like, you know, you couldn't really hide that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even in the sequence with like the backpack thing, like he's dressed with like glasses and a sweater vest and everything.
And it's
like
you're like,
this dude has
no.
so many muscles. There's so many muscles on this guy.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought he'd be a fun villain, and also because he just seems like a really fun dude.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is we do Tony Hale, Lauren Mary Kim,
Donnie.
Again, and then we do
Joette.
Oh shit. Yeah, but you had the assistant person.
Oh yeah, I had a few ideas.
Please tell me, because I don't have someone for this, so it's just you.
Well, it's
So
all
you
over
get
the
to tell
place
me who.
because I didn't know if he should be older, but it definitely seemed like someone who was just quirky, but it has to like match the quirk of Tony Hale or whoever is Buster Keaton, you know, and they were also all Buster Keaton options, like Jason Schwartzman, like also could be a good Buster too, but Bill Murray is the one that I said, which I think is like kind of fun. Or even like someone like Patrick Stewart, like just like I was going older
Oh man,
because
you were going way older.
I know, because he is kind of older in the movie, and so I kind of just like went like older. But I also had Jason Bateman too. I thought would be kind of funny.
Who do you want? Like, this is all you. So it's I have no stakes in this, so it is purely whoever you think is best for this role.
I
That's
like
Bill
Murray. I like Bill Murray.
Bill Murray, it is.
Yeah, because it just kind of seems like he's like the person that would just show up randomly to be like, "Got what you need," you know.
Like, he's the random person standing on the side of the road who throws the banana peel and or hands the hook so he can catch the thing as he runs around.
Yeah. Doesn't have to say anything. He's just like there for you. Yeah, that's what he is in real life. I feel like.
Absolutely. I think that's a fun idea. I'm all about that. Did you have, before we get to writer director, did you have any other actor performer roles?
I think that was everybody.
Okay. Sometimes I'm missing people. Sometimes like,
well, there's like all the small characters of like, you know,
yeah, but I don't necessarily have anyone in mind.
No, that was everyone that I had.
Like, I really want to cast this person who's in 2 scenes. I'm like, great, by all means, cast this person who's in 2 scenes.
Yeah.
And so you never know, but I always got to ask. So then let's talk about writer director. Do you have a writer director or do you have a separate writer and director?
That's tough. I have, I think they're all writer directors because I think I was looking up a few and they both have done some of each.
That's good.
Yeah, I think I went more writer director.
Okay. Then I'll tell you about my writer. Tell me about your writer director, and then I'll tell you about my director.
Okay.
What I did was because I knew like all the different people here would be kind of like more stunt heavy. My writer is a little bit more comedy leaning, but also interesting sequences, kind of cool ideas, and would be able to like kind of take the story and craft it in an interesting way that would then give the director and all the stunt people something to play with.
Mm.
So my writer hasn't done all that much, but most recently he was the writer who wrote Palm Springs,
Oh yeah,
which is very, very funny, but also has these really interesting and compelling sequences that surprise you in ways that you wouldn't expect.
that's a good one.
So I thought that this writer named Andy Ciara would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's who I had for writer.
Cool.
So tell me who you have as a writer director.
And I feel like any of them too, like if like I agree with that writer, but then like one of these
Let
is
me go
then
with
as
my writer and
director.
then your writer. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I went just like I kind of briefly kind of tracked some of the like action comedies that I remember recently of just like ones that I liked, and um I remembered Knives Out, and so like Ryan Johnson obviously kind of came to mind because he also did Brothers Bloom,
Yeah.
which has that like quirk kind of to it a little bit, like dark comedy. And then I also had Susanna Fogel, who did Spy Who Dumped Me, and she's writer, director, and Booksmart too. So just kind
All
of like,
great.
and that was also if I was like leaning towards having Buster like gender swap.
Incidentally, she wrote Booksmart, but she did not direct
Right,
Booksmart.
right. Yeah, she just wrote that, and that's what I mean. Like she directed Spy, and wrote it, but only wrote Booksmart. Yeah, with
Because
other people, but
those are good ideas. Once
yeah,
again, you've got this comedy thing on lock because you leaned comedy, I stunt.
yeah, that's a
Um,
good balance
I
though.
Yeah, my director is a former stunt guy himself, but he also is the director of John Wick, of Deadpool.
Mm.
And I wrote Atomic Blonder, but I meant Atomic Blonde.
Yeah, yeah.
His name is David Leitch.
Oh yeah,
And like, he's kind of like the stunt guy. Like, he's known for being the stunt guy that is now a director.
yeah.
So mine was kind of like the on the nose pick, but I'm open to just about anybody. So, like, I'm willing to trust your judgment. Whoever you think should direct this thing, I believe you.
I also had just Jonathan Ames too, who wrote and directed Bored to Death, because like
Okay.
that really is very similar. Like that is very close to a remake, in a sense of Sherlock Jr. Because it's Jason Schwartzman and Ted Danson, and Jason
Mhm.
Schwartzman is like he's just a self-proclaimed private eye, and he is kind of like this like accidental kind of clumsy detective, and the tone of it is really funny. So I had him too as a writer.
That's also an excellent choice. And that's
Yeah.
someone I would never have told. That's a great idea. Do you want to go with him?
I think he would, I mean, I think that he would capture like the tone of it, or maybe if he's writer and then like Leach as director. I'm
Oh,
just
that's a good idea too.
to kind of have a combo of like that tone, or vice versa. Have like someone stunt write
No,
it,
I think you're right. I think the bored to death guy would be probably a better writer.
because it's like
And
wondering of
then
like where the comedy versus the stunts versus like
I
in
think that
writing directing.
I think the comedy needs to live in the words in the script, and then
Yeah,
you give the action. That's for the director to play with. Because I
yeah,
don't
and
think
the
the
stunt
director should be
people.
on set being like, "Here's the way to make a great joke." The jokes are there ahead of time.
Yeah,
You have the
yeah,
jokes.
yeah,
Now make it look.
yeah. So I think if Jonathan Ames was writer, and then Leach was director, and we have all these wonderful stunt people.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's a great idea. Well done. Jonathan Ames is a great pick.
mm,
That's very
yeah, I
clever.
do love that show a lot.
I need to go back. I feel like I've seen a little bit of it, but not that much. I need to go back and do more
It's
with all
just
this
the
time we have.
casting. I know the casting is just good. Zach Galifianakis and Jenny Slate's in it too, and yeah, and Ted Danson, and so many wonderful actors in it. It's very like white man comedy, like very privileged, but it's just
Appeals to me.
it's just like he's just like this poor writer drinking white wine and can't write his second book, and but it's
Yeah.
just it's funny in its own way.
Well, that's our cast. Why don't I take you through our Sherlock Jr. or Sherlock the Third.
Yeah.
Our projectionist / Sherlock Jr. is going to be Tony Hale. The girl, named to be determined later, is Lauren Mary Kim, with her father being Donnie Yen. Our hired man, like the father's man, is going to be Joette Nicole Orman, with our bad guy / competing beau being Guy De Silva Green.
Mm-hmm.
All of this will be, and the assistant to Sherlock Jr. / boss of the projections movie theater owner is going to be Bill Murray.
I forget, what his name is. It's like Ace or something like that. I forget.
I'm sure it's great.
Yeah.
All of this will be written by Jonathan Ames and then directed by David Leitch. And that is Sherlock Jr.
Oh, gosh.
You can go see this movie, Corsica?
I mean, duh. Yeah, definitely. I would want to
Cool.
help with it. I would be even a PA. I would just want to
this feels like it'd be the most fun set to be on. Just a bunch of comedy people being made to do ridiculous things.
Yeah, and then just watching amazing stunt people just be incredible.
Yeah, I'm here for it. That sounds like the dream.
Yeah, definitely.
Love it. Cool. So then we've reached the point of the podcast where if there's anything you want to promote or social medias you want people to follow, please tell us about them now.
Oh gosh, in quarantine, I can't. I don't know if I have too much. I'm not hanging out on social media much these days. I want to just promote silent film. Is that lame?
Why don't you give us somewhere between 3 and 5 silent films that we may or may not have ever heard of that you think people should watch?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you should watch Sherlock Jr. That was one for sure. I think you should watch The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, classic. I think you should watch The Passion of Joan of Arc. It's incredible, especially right now. That's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. I mean, those are definitely the top 3 that come to me.
Those are excellent 3.
I could recommend every other Buster movie, but
what was the one where he's a boxer, you said?
Battling Butler. That one is really good. That one's really fun. Yeah, that'll be my other one.
Good.
Yeah,
I love it. And then if you watch Sherlock Jr. and all the Buster Keaton movies are really short. I think the longest one is 70 minutes, and that's Steamboat Bill Jr.
Yeah.
So, and it's all on YouTube and I think free. And if you have the opportunity to watch them, do it. To see the sequence with the house falling down on top of him, you don't necessarily see it coming until it's happening, and then you're like, oh my god!
Yeah,
and it's great.
Yeah, it is.
It's good stuff.
And then knowing, everything behind it, just how dangerous it is. Yeah.
The fact that Buster Keaton broke his neck making Sherlock Jr. That's still blowing my mind.
Yeah, and then didn't even realize it. He was just like, I'm fine. And then it's years later.
Buster Keaton is such a badass that he walked off breaking his neck.
Ran off.
Watch the movie, he runs off. Yeah, exactly, breaking his neck.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, actually, another one, Kabiria. But just because it's just very iconic in the silent film era. That one's maybe once you have watched a few silent films and can handle it, it's hard to stay even I have to really try to stay focused.
It's advanced level silent film.
Yeah, but when you break it down of what it's about, and it was very early, I think it was 1914 that it came out, and it was Italian, and it was one of the first feature length films, and it just was so inspirational to so many filmmakers at the time, just of how long and extravagant it was. And then there's one that's what is it? It's the entrance to, what is it? The in between Hell and Dante's Inferno.
Purgatory?
Yeah, but it's Dante's Inferno. That one is crazy. That's a really cool one, just with the effects that they do when they get into the layers of Hell and Dante's Inferno. There's some insane costumes and effects that they do, and that is pretty trippy.
That's rad. I'm here for it. Yeah. I know it's come up a couple of different times for movie club stuff, but did you ever see Metropolis?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Okay. Yeah,
it's the one silent film that I own, and I'm people should watch.
People should watch that one too. Yeah, I didn't mention that just because I feel that is one of the more well-known ones.
It definitely is. It's also one of the longer ones.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
like 2.5.
Well, that's like later. Same with Passion of Joan of Arc. That's like the late 1920s. So, I mean, that is when silent film was
Yeah.
like very perfected and beautiful, you know.
Mhm. And
Cabiria
then
is so early, so it's very rough, but there's a lot to appreciate there.
I still want to track down and watch the whatever that early animation thing was with the paper
Yeah,
puppets.
yeah, that Juliana mentioned. That looked really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
And after audience, you watch all these amazing silent movies. Enjoy Singing in the Rain.
Yeah, I
Um,
just watched that actually recently.
actually,
Yeah.
cool. Then good recommendations. I would say if you want to follow audience me on Twitter, I am at Sam Gasch, SamGasch, or you can follow the podcast at Ideal Remake on Twitter or Instagram, but mostly Instagram. And you can also join us on Facebook, Ideal Remake or Ideal Remake Podcast. Or since we're celebrating a truly magnificent and wonderful day, change is coming.
Woo!
If you want to celebrate that by going online to Apple Podcasts and leaving this or any podcast you'd like a 5-star review, any one of us would be incredibly appreciative of it, and we thank you. So yeah, normally Corsica, what I do when I end the podcasts is I say, "So, what is your favorite quote from the movie Sherlock Jr.?" But instead,
I broke the
I'll say,
podcast.
"What is your favorite stunt from Sherlock Jr.?"
It's when he jumps from the roof on the I think it's the train blockade thing, and he rides that down into the car. Do you know what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah, that
about?
was real cool. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking
I want to do
about. That was
that.
amazing.
Yeah, just purely, it just looks so fun. The
The traffic
roadblock
stop.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know what those are called
I don't
either.
know
We're both
either.
doing
Yeah,
the
it's
really
like
good for podcasting gesture.
it's like when you go into a parking garage and the little bar lifts. It's that thing, but it's not that. It's
Yeah,
the I don't know what it's called. It's like a railroad
it's like
crossing.
the garage door arm, but for trains.
That's it. That's what it's called.
That's what's written down. Everyone knows.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a fantastic sequence.
Yeah, it's so simple, but it's just so like not necessarily his most impressive, but it's my favorite just because I want to do it.
Yeah. It's also not surprising either because you look at it and you go, "I know what's about to happen,"
Yeah.
and then you get to watch exactly what you want to happen.
And then right
And I
after
love it.
that, he's just sitting so like smug in the back of the car. It's just like it was just
So comfortable
it's
and happy.
timed so perfect. It's everything about it is like easy and perfect and wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. I like it.
Cool.
Excellent choice. Of course, thank you so much for being my guest this week.
Thank you for letting me talk about Buster.
Hell yeah.